Hi all, this is Pradeep. Welcome to my channel. Today in this video I'm going to explain about Keyclock. So Keyclock is a identity and access management tool. So basically we use this tool to authenticate users. So if you have any web application or desktop application or any application, if you want to authenticate users, so we need a authentication service, right? So we can use this tool. So this is an open source tool, so we can set it up and we can use this instead of writing our own authentication service. So we will save time, and also since this is an open source, so we can download it and we can configure it, and this is a super easy way to start your application, right? So every application needs a security layer. Most applications need security layer, so we can start setting this up, and I will explain how to set this up and run this, and we will also try to add some users, and then we will try to access this service. So let's get started. So I prepared this small checklist here. Small checklist. So this has all the items or the tasks we will follow and complete the setup of Keyclock, and also we will configure it. So basically it has three sections: download, configure, and run Keyclock, and realm, client, users, and roles setup, and then finally create an access token. So we will go through each of these item, and we will finally at the end we will have a running authentication service. Before going into the details, I hope you already know what OAuth is, because that is needed to understand how this authentication service works. So to give you a small introduction, right? So OAuth will have the four entities: user, client, authentication service, and the resource service. So the user is the one who uses keyboard to enter his credentials into the system, and client is the one which is the user interface for the user, where a user enters into a input fields, right? That's the client. And authentication service is the one which takes the user credentials and provides the access token. And resource service is the where the real business logic or the real resources what users needed or will be there, right? That is the real application. So these are the four entities. So now we are today setting up this Keyclock. This is the authentication service. So remaining other entities we are not going through in this video, but we will concentrate on the authentication service. Let's begin with the first section, that is download, configure, and run Keyclock. So the first item is the download and extract. So we will go to the Keyclock website. So this is the one, keyclock.org. So here we will have this button, just click on that. So there are various ways to set this up, but in this video we will go with the basic one, that is Keyclock on OpenJDK. So this is a standalone application or the tool. So once you click on this, you will get a zip file. So download that into your system and extract it. So in my system, right, I already downloaded and extracted. Here is the folder. So this is the whole application here. So you will see the bin and other folders in it. By default, Keyclock runs on 8080 port. So if you want to change this port, so you go into this standalone directory. So let's go there, and there is a configuration. Go into that, and you see the standalone.xml. Now let's open that. Here in this XML, search for port. So here is a port, so we can change it. So in my system I'm changing it to 8000 and saving it. Now we configured our Keyclock, so we configured the default port. So we are good to go. We can start our Keycloak. So let's go into the bin and look for standalone.bat. So double click on that. So I'm just running it. So it started here. It will take some time. Okay, I think it started. So now we can go to the browser and we can access the console. Let's go back to our checklist and see where we are. So we completed this: download and extract, configuration, default port, and run Keycloak. So let's access console and see what we can do there. So before that, go to the browser and access localhost at 8000 port and hit. So this is the initial screen of Keycloak. So since there are no users, so we need to set up. So because this is the first time we are setting up, we need to first configure admin credentials. So here I am creating one user. So this is the admin user. So I'm just giving admin and a test password, just creating it. So user is created. We can enter into the console now. So it asks for the user. Let's go. Okay, so this is the dashboard, Keycloak dashboard. So we logged into it. Let's come back to our checklist. Now we are in the second section. We will start with creating a realm. So here in the dashboard you see master. So this is the default realm Keycloak will create for us, and instead of using this default realm we will create a new one. So it is better to create a new one. First of all, what realm is, it is a collection. So we are creating a separate space, it is a security space. So we are creating a separate space for ourselves. So it can contain security policies, users, clients, and roles. So let's create one. Go to here on the menu and highlight this current existing realm and click on the add. It will prompt to add a realm name. So I just given this name, my realm, and enabled on. Clicking on the create, that will create it and it will switch to that. So that's it. So this is the realm we created. One point to note down is here you see the endpoints, right? So click on this OpenID endpoint configuration. It will show a lot of information here. So it is not properly formatted, but you see a lot of endpoints. Authorization endpoint is here, and token endpoint is here, introspection endpoint. So these are all OAuth specific information. So it will publish all this information for you. So if you want to know some URL, then you can come back and click on this. It will show all these URLs. And there are some XML identity provider metadata also. So click on that, and this is the XML file you can use. So this is just for reference purpose. We may use this latter point. So when we come to access or configure access token. So let's go back to our checklist and click on this. We completed creation of the realm. Now let's go and create a client. So the client is nothing but the application which interacts with the authentication service and the resource service, and also that is the application where user will provide the credentials, right? That's the client. So we need to create the client here. So let's go here to the client section. We have option to create. So let's click on this create button on the right side, right? So click on that, and it will ask you to enter the client ID. Let's say we want to develop an application like to-do list. So just I wanted to give to-do list app. This is the client name I'm giving. And make sure you select OpenID Connect. So because this is what the realm we enabled right? So that's why. So now click on the save. So that creates the client. So the client is created. That's it. So we no need to do anything else. Now click on this checkbox. The client is created. That's nothing but we added an app into the Keycloak. Now let's create some users, right? Sorry, something I clicked here, but that's okay. So now let's go and click on the users. Sorry, before creating users we need to create client scopes that we missed. So what client scope is, like, it is what this is where we define the purpose of the application or the purpose of the client. So you may have multiple client scopes. In this case we create only one to simplify it. So when you request for when a client application requests for the access token, it also provides the scope. So your application can contain multiple scopes. Like for admin you can give one scope, and normal regular users you can give another scope. You can divide application like security based on the users. So let's create a scope. So go to the client scopes here and click on the create. Now we can give some name. I want to give to-do list app. I want to give same name to make it simple. So you can give any other name if you want. So that's it. So remaining everything you can keep default and click on the save. So that's creates the client scope. Now we need to map the client with the client scopes. So go back to the clients and click on the client which we created, that is to-do list, and here you go to client scopes tab. Now here you see these are the available client scopes, these two boxes, and there is already default scopes selected. We don't need all these, so select them, click on the remove selected and click and select the whatever we needed. Just we need the to-do list app. The same thing for here. Something is missing here. Oh yeah, I think there is no to-do list app here, but yeah, that's it. So we need only one to-do list app. So that's it. So that maps the client scope with this client to-do list app. So that is done with the clients. Now we can go and create users. Let's click on the users menu. Now initially there are no users available. You can see that by clicking on the view all users, there is nothing available here. Now click on the add user here. This is the button we need to click, add user, and we can give some names. Maybe I want to create a user named add email verified. Better to check this so the user will be enabled, right? So email verification is completed for this user, or else this user will be in not enabled or at intermediate stage. So but if you click on this, then the user will be available for authentication. So that is done. Click on the save. Then you go to credentials. You need to give some password. So initially let's give just some random password. Let's just make sure you remember this. So remove this temporary. So we need to make sure this is not temporary, and we want to use this same password when you log in. So click on the set password. Yes, we want to set the password, so click on that. The password is set, user is added. Now let's add one more user. This time I will do just name Bob and email is verified. Save, go to credentials and provide the password. Set password and user is added. Now let's go to the users, and now you see there are two users available, Adam and Bob. And in the checklist we completed creating users. So users are done, so you can add many users, like as many as users you want here. So that is done, and the next thing is creating roles. Now the users are done, but users need some roles. Like a user can be admin, and some users can be regular write users or read users, right? So there are different kind of users, so you can assign roles to the users. So to add roles, click on this menu item roles here, and you click on the add role. So we want to create a role named read, so just for the simplicity. So now click on the save. So the role is created. Now we can go back to the users and we can assign this role to the users, right? I'm going to the users, clicking on the first user Adam, and there is a role mapping. So now I have one role available, so I click on that and click on add selected. There is a assigned roles, already there is one assigned. Maybe this is not needed, I'm just removing that. I only want to read, so that is saved successfully. And yeah, that's it. I want to give read to one user, just Adam, not to the Bob, just to see how it works when we test. So that's it. So we are completed adding roles and we map roles to the users. That is done. So we completed our second section, right? So we created realm, client scopes and users and roles, and we assign roles to the users. So we almost completed everything what we needed, and now we can continue and test to see how this is working. So we are going into the third section. This is the access token. Now when we test our users, right, we need to pass some crucial information and then we get the access token. Now let's continue on that. So before we test access token, we need to find out the URL to which we can pass the required information, so we get the access token, right? So for that we need to go to the realm settings here and click on the OpenID endpoint configurations. So here you will see token endpoint. Let's see where it is. Yeah, here it is, token endpoint. So you copy this and we can, so I'm copying it, and I already have Postman client with me, so I already copied it here. My realm protocol OpenID connect and token. So this is the endpoint, and we need to make a post call. So and we need to pass all this required information. So this is note that we are sending it in form URL encoded, right? So this is what we need to do. So we need to pass 5 key values, right? The grant type is password, means this is one of the grant type OAuth supports, where we need to pass username and password. So here I am passing username as Adam and the password for this user. And the scope, if you remember, we created the scope to-do list app. This is the client scope we created, and the client ID, this is what the real client ID we provided. So both we have in the realm, in our realm, right, in the Keycloak. So all this information is passed, and if you see in the headers, we have just content type. So this is the form URL encoded. So now you provide all this information, click on the send, and it will return back. Keycloak will return back with this JSON. It will contain the access token here, and you can see there is an expires also, that is 300. That's nothing but the 5 minutes. So we have we got the response from the Keycloak, and this is what the access token we use to authenticate, or the client will pass this access token to the resource service. So let's go back to our checklist and see where we are. So we tested our access token, so let's check that. And the next one is update access token expiry time. So it's always better to give shorter lifespan for your access token. So here in this case you are seeing 5 minutes. This is a 300 seconds, that's nothing but 5 minutes. We gave 5 minutes, like that's the default time Keycloak will give for the access token. So it's always better to have control, right? If you want to reduce this time, so what you need to do is we need to go back to the Keycloak console, go to realm settings, click on the tokens, and here you see access token lifespan, right? Here it is 5 minutes. So in the dev environment you can give it more time, but in the production it's always better to have a lesser time here. So let's see how it changes. Like I'm giving it as a 1 minute here and clicking on the save. Now let's go back to the Postman and send the same request.
Now here you see the 60 seconds here, so that is reflected in our JSON response, right? So that's this what we tested now, update access token expiry time. So that is that with that we completed testing our access token, right? But we want to customize our token. So before that we need to understand this access token, what information it has, right? We need to understand that. So to do that, you copy this content and go to this tool, that is jwt.io. This is an online tool where you can analyze your access token. So you go there and you copy it here. So it will show you it will decode this access token and it will show you the details here. So this is the header part of this token, and this is the real payload. So it has all the information related to our user. It's nothing much, but it has basic information like what is the app name here and some other scope. So there is, you can see the scope of this access token, right? So but some important information you may need here, like for example, what are the authorities this user has, right? Like what are the access permissions this user have. So we are missing that. So maybe we can add that by going and customizing this access token in the Keycloak. So let's do that. So let's start customizing it by adding authorities to the token. So to do that, you go to the client scopes and click on our scope, to-do list app. So this is the scope we created. So here you go to the mappers, right? So here create a new mapper and we call this mapper, or we can give some names. I'm giving it as authorities, and I say to what this key to be mapped to. So now I am selecting user realm role. So for that user, whatever the roles are assigned, that will be pulled from the realm, and that is assigned to this key. I am giving this key name. So this is the key we see in the JSON. So I'll click on the save. Now that is done. So now let's request again new key. So we got the key. Now we take this key and we test it in the JWT tool. Now you see this is the new key we got, authorities. So this user has an authority of read. So this is nothing but the roles this user has. But what is the user? We don't have any username in this JSON, so it is confusion, right? Application cannot know what kind of this, like to which user this belongs to. So we can add a username. We can customize this even further by adding a username in this payload, right? For that, we go back to the Keycloak, mappers, and here we create a new mapper. So we give some name here, username, and let's select a mapper to this. So since this is a user related property, so we select user property here, and within the user property we need to grab username. So this is what the key which contains the real user's name in the Keycloak, and we need to map it to another key in the JSON. So we give that name here, user underscore name. This is what you see in the JSON. Now let's save that. Now go back to the Postman and request new access token. Take this and let's test what we have. Now you see username. So this is what we need. So now application knows that this is the request and it is authenticated, and the user is not, this is the what Adam. So that's what the application knows now. Here one more thing is missing. If you are working on a resource server, right,
So that is the audience, right? Resource service is an audience for this JSON. So we need to have a one more key here, audience key, which will tell who are the audience for this token. So to add a audience, right, go back to the console, click on the mappers, create a new mapper. Now give a name AUD. We can give any name. I just give AUD and click on audience. Here it will give an option to select the audience, like included client audience. So we want this one, so we will click that and then click on the save. So once that is done, now we will go back and request another access token. Now let's copy this again. Now you see audience. So this is the odd, this is the key resource server will use. So this is the application, it knows that this is the intended audience for this JWT token. So let's go back to our checklist. I think we almost completed everything in this list. So finally we configured and we created all the required items or the resources we need within the Keycloak, right? Realm, client, users and roles. And finally we tested a new access token, we updated expiry time, and we customized it with various other required key values in the JWT. So pretty much we completed everything, and hope this will help you to set up a Keycloak authentication service yourself on your computer. This is a good project, I like it. If you want to develop any application and looking for an authentication service, I think this is the best tool to use. So hope you enjoyed or you learned a new thing in this video. So I will come back with the new videos. Till then, bye. Thank you for watching.